How did you find it? Superb. Good to see people who were here coming back. That makes me very happy. Um, that's good to hear. Superb, superb, superb. Well, folks, you'll know if you were here for the part one that it was a lot happened. We moved very quickly. We went through quite a bit of content, and today really is no different. We've got a lot of content to get through, so I'm going to need you to pay attention. This is your kind of brief period to get a drink. If there's someone you need to send a link to, do it now. If there's someone who needs to be here, remind them to be here before we get straight into things. We've got so much fun planned, but also lots of meaningful content that I hope will actually help you in your leadership journeys. So we probably should start by me introducing myself. My name is MT Omani, and I'll be leading today, but really my job also is to facilitate and to bring on some really exciting young people, your age, a bit older, maybe a bit younger, who are doing amazing things in their industries too. I do a number of different things. I wear a couple of different hats, but I look after the Commons Network, which is a news network based in the UK. And what we do is we bring millennials who have different opinions together to debate and to learn from each other. I lead Our God-Given Mission, which is a Christian charity based here in the UK. I lead the Apex Group, which is a secret group of CEOs and founders from BME communities who meet together to share best practices. I lead something called the BAM Project, which is a secret group sorry, it's not a secret group. Sorry, that's the other one. The BAM Project is a project where we go into schools and we help young Black boys reimagine masculinity. Apart from that, I lead on some projects, some consultation gigs, and other bits and bobs. So I'm going to take your questions. I'm going to go back and forth with you. And hopefully at the end of this, you'll feel positive. You'll feel ready to go back, and you'll feel a bit more confident about leading in a time of uncertainty. So that's me, but let's hear from our sponsor today, and let's welcome now Jumoke to the stage. The virtual stage, I should say. Is she here? Is she ready? Can she be spotlighted? And can we hear a little bit about Nurturing Foundations, who are making today possible?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jumoke Quadri. I'm the founder of Nurturing Foundations, and really, it's just amazing and lovely to have everyone on here tonight. I want to welcome you all to the Youth School of Leadership event sponsored by Nurturing Foundations, of course. Today kicks off the second edition after a very successful maiden edition with lots of amazing, positive feedbacks from the attendees. We support government and education ministries with the sole aim of helping individuals, especially young adults like yourselves, attain your maximum potential, thereby making you empowered global citizens and always capable of making the right decisions at all times. So today's event seeks to create a platform for young adults to meet as one unified body, seeking to develop, have meaningful discussions, and be trained in effective leadership by exceptional youth leaders. Our selection of youth leaders are trailblazers who are keen to connect with you and also empower you by sharing relevant knowledge and skills, support your development, and also help you find and navigate the right direction. Mike spoke earlier and he's ready. It was amazing in the first session. And along with Josiah, Deborah, and Michael, they're all ready. And I can assure you that this evening is going to be an awesome experience for you all, with many light bulb moments, okay, that will awaken the leader in you. So do feel free to follow us on our social media platforms. They're all Nurturing Foundations. For up-to-date information, you can follow us on Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram, and you can follow us on YouTube as well. So let's get right into it. And I would like to remind you to focus throughout this event and to also kindly complete the survey form at the end, because this will help us to plan and also keep you informed about our future events. Thank you. Over to you, Mike.
Superb. That was so good. Yes. And please, folks, do follow on social media. You can see it at the bottom there. It's Michael Nice. Yes. But Nurturing Foundations, follow, get involved, because this is not the only event happening this year. I love Nurturing Foundations because they're committed to helping people, I'm going to say it, nurture their foundations. and leadership is like, It's just the key staple thing that everyone needs to know. And let me just say it right now. If you're in here, you're thinking, I'm not a CEO. That's not what it means to be a leader. We covered that before. If you're coming in here, you're thinking, I don't have any organization. It's okay. That's not what it means to be a leader. First, you have to lead yourself. And after leading yourself, you then turn to other people and you mobilize and galvanize them too. So this is for everybody. I believe every single person listening to me has the capacity to be an effective leader. Whether it's in your church, whether it's in your place of worship, whether it's it's in your family, these skills, these things we're talking about today, will empower you, whatever age you are and in whatever capacity you lead. So don't rule yourself out if you're thinking, well, I'm not a CEO. It's not about that. Now, let's get straight into something that I hope will bring us all together a little bit, right? Now, when you think about leadership, right, and management, the three worst words and the three most feared words for a leader typically is, I don't know. Right? It can be scary when someone comes to you to say, what's happening? What's next? Where are we going? And all you can say is, I don't know. Well, listen, that's been the case for a lot of us over the past few months due to the coronavirus pandemic, right? If you ask me right now, Mike, what are your plans for the year? Honestly, I've got a detailed one, yeah? But the truth is, I don't know. I don't know, because we are living in a time of unparalleled uncertainty. Some of you are probably learning from home and you're tired of Zoom, but thank you for joining this one, right? Some of you have businesses probably on standby because you don't know what's going to happen next. Universities, jobs, it's really affecting all of us. But uncertainty isn't new, right? We've been dealing with uncertainty for a long time. In the 1980s, uncertainty was recognized as one of the most significant leadership challenges, right, that leaders will face. So it's in your best interest, if you're listening to me, to really deal with uncertainty. And that's what we're going to grapple with today. How do you lead in a time of uncertainty? So a little icebreaker, just to get us all in the same place, because I know some of us are like, huh. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open the floor, and I want us all, and you can do it in the chat as well, I want you to start a statement with, I don't know, and then tell me that thing you don't know. I know it sounds a bit weird, but just go along with me for a minute. I want us all to think about something we don't know and type that in the group chat, or to put your hand up, and George will spot you and he'll give you, like, he'll mention you, and then you can just tell us. So we've got a few minutes for that. Let's just start there. What don't you know? Let's go. Right, I'm reading some of these. Superb. Some people are quick. They're already there. Yes. It's odd, isn't it? It's odd thinking about what you don't know. But there we go. Yes, I'm seeing them coming in. Unfortunately, I don't have my glasses, which is a bad decision for me because I'm struggling to keep up. But keep it coming, folks. Is anyone brave enough to kind of maybe put their hand up, wants to share with us what they don't know and actually say it? Anybody? All right, I'm going to pick on somebody. Ade. There's a lot of Ades, aren't there? Oh, no, never mind, Ade. There's someone here. I can't see your name for some reason. I'm not quite sure. I think I'm still quite new to this format. I see your hand up. Feel free to speak. I think I can't quite see who it is, but feel free to speak. If your hand's up, just feel free to unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of things I do not know. And yeah, so related to my personal life.
Yeah, you can say a personal thing, or you can just speak about your business or maybe school,
Yeah,
whatever
in
it is.
relation to my personal life, I practically cannot cook to save my life, And then in relation to my job, there's like a whole lot of things I do not know that I still wish I knew.
Yeah,
Never start mentioning.
I got you.
That's it.
Should learn to cook, however, because if you leave that cooking in someone else's hand, they have a lot of power over you. So careful about that. Esther, I see your hand up. Do you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. I don't know what final exams are gonna look like, I guess, and just skills that I need to know to be a leader, I guess.
Yeah. Well, now, you sound like you're not from London. I'm going to go on a limb and
No.
say, are you from Northern Ireland?
No, I'm from just the Republic of Ireland.
I know that's a major faux pas. I'm so
You're
sorry.
okay. You're
Right.
okay.
We'll take one more person. Anyone else? Anyone else? I actually can't see people, which is such a shame. I would call you, but feel free to just kind of jump in if you want to say something.
I don't know if I can be a successful leader in whatever field I kind of get myself into.
Got you. And that's okay, folks. But I hope with that one, you'll know by the end of today. But folks, the reason why we're doing that is to help us realize just on the onset, we don't have all the answers. I felt compelled to go, you don't have all the answers, Sway, but we don't have all the answers, right? And in a time like this, a lot of leaders, even the most competent and experienced ones, don't have all the answers, and that's okay. We're going to grapple with that today. So let's just go through the first session before we meet our first kind of young leader that's doing amazing things. You know, there are two different things we're going to cover today. We're going to look at one, how we deal with uncertainty when we look kind of insular, when we look at ourselves, right? So what can I do better in this period to be more effective? And then we're going to look at what can my organization or something external to me, what can that thing, how do I structure, organize, arrange that thing also to be better? So we got two different things, internal, external. Let's start with the internal. When we look at the world we're living in today, where, like I said, people are being locked at home, we maybe find 10,000 pounds if we... Sorry, someone say something? Let me use this as a reminder. Please put yourself on mute if you are not speaking to everybody. But yeah, so we're living in a time where you might be fined for going outside. We don't know what's happening with the vaccines. There's lots of uncertainty around. What can you do privately in order to be more effective during this time? Well, this one's for everybody, whether you have an organization or not. The first thing we have to do, and if you're taking notes, I would start here, is developing personal adaptability. This is something that it sounds almost kind of common sense, but you'll be shocked how when we go through problems, our most immediate response, or when we go through kind of, global pandemics, our most instinctive response can be to withdraw, to run away, to kind of shut the door and wait for things to get better. Some people do this with their organization. They do it with school. They're just coasting, right? Waiting for things to magically or suddenly get better. I get the impulse, but I'm here to remind us that is a suboptimal way to live. Leaders in times of uncertainty have to take on a growth mindset, right? They have to condition themselves to question the mental modes that they've been working under, and they have to jettison any aspects or models that are no longer relevant, right? So this capability includes, measuring and working out how resilient you are, how committed to personal well-being you are, and quite frankly, how you can cope during stressful times. If you're interested in a snapshot of that, take a look at this, right? Leaders must take on a growth mindset. Why do I say that? Well, because when you are in a time of uncertainty and unparalleled uncertainty like this time we're living in right now, well, this also presents the most opportunity for you to grow, right? Because one thing COVID's done for me personally, especially last year when it first happened, 2020 was going to be the biggest year for myself personally, business-wise, right? I started the year off on a high. I was jogging, I was eating right. I was really, really excited as to what the year held for me. When lockdown first happened, or when I heard about, something's happening in China, whatever it was, I thought, it's not going to get here. It's not that serious. And I thought, even if it did get here, I'll be okay. I have an online business. Bob's your uncle, whatever. Fast forward 5 months. So we're talking now, maybe May. And after I've lost thousands of pounds due to, contracts and projects I had been canceled, I'm a big social person. I like people. I wasn't able to see anybody. It really started to affect me mentally, right? It really did. So for me, I got hit with the whole lockdown blues thing from around April, May. I know some of us are feeling it now. I was dealing with it back then. But you know, what it also revealed to me was that there was a great capacity, there was a great chasm in my life for growth. So at the onset, what we have to do in the first instance is really commit to a growth mindset. Some of you have done so already because you're on a Zoom call, another Zoom call, seeking growth. So kudos to you guys, but that's the first thing you have to do. Now, there are 4 other things we're going to go through. 1 is to plan and to be ready to shift gears. 2 is to communicate often and early. 3 is to lead with compassion. And 4 is to manage the post-crisis new normal. I'm going to go through that in 1 minute, right? But I'm going to give you some time to maybe write that down or take a shot. By the way, all the stuff we discussed today, some of it, if not most of it, will be available on the website, youthschoolofleadership.com. So you can download this PowerPoint. You can read articles, all the stuff I'm writing down. You can get it straight after this session is over. Any questions so far? Let me just take a room temperature, a room temp check. Everyone good? Any questions? Superb. Let's press on then. So this planning and being ready to shift gears. What do I mean by that? Well, the first thing we do personally when times of uncertainty hit us, right? Whether it's losing, like I said, a business deal or it's a global pandemic, is we have to really ask ourselves a quick question, which is, does the plan I have, is it going to work? Right? The way things are currently constituted, will that work? And we have to do it pretty quickly, because if we don't, if you're leading and you've got people behind you, beside you, however you see it, your decisions, as you know, will have an impact on them, right? So the first thing is to really work out, well, what's my plan, right, for this season I'm going through? We're going to go into this in a lot more detail. We're starting here at the top. But what's my plan, right? And where are my gears, right? Am I ready to shift gears if things change? Essentially, what's my contingency? Things of that nature. Now, the Harvard Business School, the researchers there, they found that the most successful teams across the world, and this is a metadata study they did, the most successful teams are the ones that cycled different ways of working, right? Now, one thing we all are as human beings is we're creatures of habit, right? We find a way that works and we stick to it. But what uncertainty does, if we would allow it to work, is it forces us to really rethink our model of working. And you'll be shocked. I was consulting a woman today that runs a public speaking business. She's ran it for 30 years. And, you know, I was talking to her. I said, you know, what kind of changes have you made since COVID? You know what she said? You know what she told me? She said, well, we're online a bit more, but we're just waiting for it all to blow over. And I said, waiting? Based on the mutations, you may be here forever. I get it. You found a way that works for 20 years, but you have to adapt and change. So you have to be malleable. So this kind of, we're just gonna wait, close our eyes. That's not good enough. You have to be ready to shift gears. The second thing you must do on a personal level, right, is that you have to communicate often and early, because most of us as leaders have this proclivity, right? This temptation sometimes where things go wrong, we just retreat into our, little zone, as it were, and try and figure things out. Not always helpful, mainly because when you think about your team, well, they can't read your mind. So oftentimes they have no clue what's going on, but also some of the issues you're facing, your mind sometimes will exacerbate, will magnify the issues when they actually, to borrow a term, are not that deep. So during crisis, where there's lots of noise out there, this is when it's important for you to resist the noise. Don't become insular and small, but communicate with people, whether it's mentors, whether it's friends. Communicate often and communicate early. It took me till November for me to speak to one of my friends who I found out was £7,000 in debt. He just never shared it. Now, had he told me in March, it was only 3,600 at the time. So had he communicated often and early, it's a problem, but we could have solved it together. Now we're still solving it now, but him delaying just made things a bit worse. So as leaders, you must get into the habit of communicating often and early. Be direct with your communication. Be honest with your communication. Don't blame other people for what's going on. Share what's share what's in your mind with other people. The third thing, really quickly, is leading with compassion, right? One of the major temptations, again, that happens when we are in times of hardship is that we can get very mechanical, right? And very logical about things. We start adding up the numbers, you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, and you're trying to calculate how to get your way out of this. It's important that you don't evade compassion, right? This is not a time to move away from kindness and caring, even if your brain nudges you to do so. One thing the coronavirus has shown us is that in times of crisis, we often suffer mentally, emotionally, and physically. And for that reason, with your team, with people you're leading, with people who are under you, you have to lead with compassion. But before we go into those people, you have to lead yourself with compassion. I saw it when lockdown first happened, the memes on Twitter. You have to come out of lockdown with a new skill. If you can't code, you've wasted your life. And how are you not fit at the end of lockdown? And and we can pile on all these different expectations and be very negative in how we're growing. One quick thing to help you measure growth is if you have a goal, you have a goal at the end of lockdown, I want to be here, or at the end of the year, I want to raise this much capital. There's two ways to measure that goal. You can either measure, one, how far away you are from the goal, or you can measure how far away you've traveled from the start. And this is a tiny thing. Right. And again, I've consulted with people who run companies who, when I say that, or we talk about that they're mind blown by it, because based on your proclivity, some of us, we err or we lean towards negativity. So let's say you want to have a six pack, right? Just whatever. And you look in the mirror and you're like, I don't have a six pack. I don't have a six pack. I don't have a six pack. And until you have it, all you think is, I don't have it. That's not a very compassionate way to live your life. You can instead measure how far you're moving away from when you started, and that might give you a more positive outlook at things. Now, last but not least is, at some stage, this virus will subside, I say, inshallah. At some stage, we're going to move past this. So ask yourself, what's the culture, right? What is this virus teaching me? What is this lockdown teaching me that I need to take seriously? I was speaking to a friend not too long ago who were talking about how lockdowns affected us. And folks, we'll go into it as we go into this session. I've been affected greatly by lockdown. I've got so many different stories to share with you. But one of the things he was saying when we were talking was, he said, well, I just can't wait to get back to normal. And here's what I want to encourage everyone in this call to do. So listen up, every single person. Yes, we all want to get back to normal. But what we need to do is question what normal we want to get back to. Because there are certain things that you've stopped doing since lockdown that you need to stop doing. Let it go. It's okay. Let it go. The way we were living before, it's not some optimal, great way that we now need to run back to, because that's the way we look when we're nostalgic and we're looking through kind of rose-tinted lenses. Instead, ask yourself, what normal is worth running back to? Within your team, what's the culture? In one of my teams, because of lockdown, we know each other a whole lot more. For 2 years, there were people in my team I never really spoke to or knew, because it was a big team. Because of lockdown, whether it's because we did like online, get to know me things or socials, I now actually have a relationship with people now. That's a new normal. I'm not running back to the old way. That's a new way I need to walk forward with. These are some of the things that I hope will help us really re-engineer how we think about our role in this lockdown before we even get to other people. Now, to illustrate some of these points, I want to invite to the stage. In fact, is it time yet? Hold on, let me make sure I got this right. Superb. So we're going to have our first spotlight session now with a guy called Michael. I have a theory. All Michaels are great. His name is Michael Ojetunde. I'm going to invite him up on the stage because he's a young leader. He's currently in Paris, I believe. So, Michael, are you with me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mike. I'm here.
That's Michael. This is to confirm that you're not a catfish because your face looks the same. So this is perfect. Yeah, let me check it really quickly. Superb. Right. So, Mike, we're going to have a session now where you guys can ask Mike questions, but I'm going to first ask him a couple and then we're going to get straight into things. So, Mike, how are you doing? Are you good?
No, I'm good. I'm good, Mike. Like
Yeah?
I said, appreciate the opportunity to come on the panel and speak. If I wasn't on the panel, I'd probably be in the audience. So, yeah, I appreciate it. And everybody bear with me. This is my first public speaking opportunity. So, yeah, glad to be here and I'm doing great. How are you?
Superb. I'm good. I'm good. So far, so I need to drink water. So I'm going to ask you a question so I can drink. But tell people a bit more about what you do, because I've written on there More Life Group, right? But in short, what exactly is More Life Group? What do you do? Just so people get a sense of who you are.
Yeah, so I think you touched on it earlier. So I'm a French and economics student, University of Warwick, based in Paris on a year abroad. To touch a bit on what More Life Group is, it's essentially a youth multimedia platform that consists of events and a magazine. So in regards to the events, it's about providing young people with valuable insights into career opportunities, potential vocations, really giving them opportunities to network and just find out more about particular vocations, but then on the same time, giving them entertainment value, mixing the professionalism essentially with the pleasure, which is our slogan, bringing you good times and good vibes, but also an opportunity to really strive for greatness in your vocational activities. On the flip side of the magazine, it's about unearthing the stories of successful young people from every industry. We feel like young people's voices mobilize young people the best. It's the most inspiring, it's probably the most mobilizing, because any advice that I give you as a 22-year-old businessman who's probably on 7 figures is whatever I use to get there is probably still around for you to use as well. So that's what the magazine's about. Every industry, young people who are successful. So that's what I do in regards to More Life Group. I do a few other things aside from that, but yeah, I guess that's the main 2 aspects.
Quick one. Someone says, "Is Michael abroad?" So Savannah asks, "Are you abroad? Are you abroad on the Erasmus scheme?"
Yes, Savannah. Yes, I am. I'm aware. I think the Erasmus scheme finishes with me. So, but I think
as in you, like just you.
with my
You're the last one.
With my year group, I wish.
Okay.
No, my year group.
Right. Superb. Look, what Mike? You know, you do lots of other things, as you said. It feels so odd saying Mike because I'm Mike. Hey, Mike. Anyways, so we've heard about a bit about what you do, and you do a lot more. And folks, follow Mike online. I'll share the screen before he goes so you can see his Instagram. Follow him, interact with what he does, so you can find out a bit more about him. Mike, I want to contextualize some of these things I'm saying, because I know, I spend a lot of time doing these things, and I know people sometimes can hear all these ideas and be like, "Oh, pie in the sky, pie in the sky." So with you, let's be practical, let's be logical about this, and let's be real. How has lockdown affected you as a leader? Not what you lead per se, but you as a leader.
I think it's made me have to be the main 2 aspects of lockdown, it's made me have to be a lot more intentional with the relationships. I think you touched on it earlier. During this time in lockdown, COVID, everyone being indoors, everybody's found it so difficult to engage with each other, let alone being in class and stuff like that. So as a leader, you have to be so much more intentional with the way in which you develop your relationships with your team. Normally you can do that hi-bye, couple quick conversations in person if you do a team link up, but really doing that in person, doing that virtually, you have to be so much more intentional with scheduling these Zoom calls, scheduling these Google Meets, scheduling FaceTimes. And if you don't do that, if you're not consistent, if you're not transparent with that, I wasn't like that at the start of the COVID lockdown. So a lot of the plans that we wanted to do, they fell through, or they were just stagnant and didn't really move because we weren't doing that. And it wasn't until I was actually on a similar call like this and somebody else, another leader, mentioned that they had that experience and this is how they had learned and overcome it, that I understood, yeah, you really need to develop a one-on-one relationship with everyone in your team. You're not managing a team, you're managing a team of individuals. And I think that's so important, especially virtually. So I think in that case, in regards to myself, I've had to pour out myself a lot more in regards to spending less time actually doing the tasks, but more so developing relationships, trying to understand the people doing the tasks a lot deeper, a lot more intimately. So
yeah, I like what we said there about pouring yourself out. I like that kind of the visualization of that, right? Of course, you know what's coming, because if I ask, if you're saying you've been pouring yourself out, well, how have you been fed, right? And who's pouring into you, or how are you being poured into, so that you feel like you can actually pour out? Because one of the things that often happens, again, because of lockdown, and this is irrespective of whether you have a business or not, is people can pour themselves out so much that they kind of experience burnout, right? They just feel like it's just too much. I'm just tired. So how have you dealt with that when you're kind of calling everyone? What's been refueling you?
Yeah, I think twofold. So first of all, I think I am blessed to be quite a resilient person in general. I feel like my mental capacity is probably larger than most in terms of what I can emotionally take on. It won't burden me too much in that sense. But definitely there are moments where I've just not wanted to get out of bed. Today is just not the day. I've got 4 meetings scheduled. I don't know how I'm going to get up for these 4 calls and bring the energy, bring the vibes, bring all that youthful energy that the leader is meant to bring so that it can dissipate into the rest of the team and get everybody else on their feet as well. I won't lie, it hasn't been easy, but in those moments, I found myself being able to call upon really people who have been like cornerstones emotionally for myself, friends who I've been able to surround myself with, who have been able to, in a sense, pick me up in those moments. And I think that's the main element of relationships building, like surround yourself with individuals who can help you when you're down. I'm lucky enough to have had 2-3 individuals. I have a girlfriend who's pretty much been the rock for that, most of that, I'll be honest, if she's even here listening. But yeah, she really does help, and family, and even your Bible, honestly. Sometimes when you actually do read the Bible, it's funny, you can open it to random pages and there's for some reason, those pages have something, some sort of little word that will guide you here and there. And it's amazing. So yeah, definitely surround yourself with individuals who will pick you up, bring you down. I think that's what friendships is about, to cultivate those relationships. So yeah.
Gotcha. Someone said love is sweet, they said. Well, yeah, it is. But it can also be intoxicating. So be careful, folks. Don't be drunk in love, as Beyonce once said. Now, the other question I have for you is, what's the last, mind kind of blowing moment you've had about leadership? Like, what's the last thing you learned about leadership that made you go, interesting?
Great question. Mind blowing.
Mind blowing might sound a bit too kind of dramatic, because I'm imagining you on the bus like, it doesn't have to be that. I just mean the last thing you thought, that was like a fresh insight into something for you.
Yeah, honestly, I think it is the idea that, and I think there's so many aspects of this that you can really unpack, but the saying "readers are leaders" I think it's slept on. No matter how many times you hear it, it is so slept on. And that has been the most probably enlightening, or probably the most mobilizing phrase, quote, whatever you want to call it, thing that I've been able to kind of implement in terms of how I've been able to kind of grow as a leader. And I think it all stems from things as simple as making more time for yourself to read. So one thing I've been trying to implement and has really been helping myself is just waking up early. Like when you think about it, you're a leader, right? So in a sense, you are ahead of the pack. You are leading, guiding individuals. If you want to get ahead, wake up early. By the time I've woken up at 6 and it's 9 a.m. and you've just woken up at 8:30, I've got 2.5 hours on you. I'm ahead of you already in the day. Imagine we do that 2.5 hours, times that by 365 days a year. I've got now 700 and something hours ahead of you throughout the year. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that element is very much slept on. And it's not just that you're waking up early. It's that I think, Oluwademilade, you need to be very intentional, like you just said, using those 2.5 hours. What are you doing in that time? What are you reading in that time? Nobody has all the answers. You really have to pick it up and source it from as many people as you can find, and books. Reading is just the perfect place to do that. Luckily, there's so many mediums for reading. You can watch videos, you can read blogs, you can read books. It doesn't matter what you do, but so long as you're consuming information that you don't have, and you don't need to implement every single one, by all means, like you can absorb, you can refuse, you can whatever you want to do, but you're using those 2.5 hours intentionally to try and develop yourself. And I think it starts with discipline, but it ends with reading, because waking up is not easy. I can't lie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you want to do it, do what I did. So stagger your way. Start at 8, go 7:30, 7, 6:30, get all the way down. I'm trying to get to 5. I don't know how that's gonna work. But
You know,
yeah,
it's gonna work. You know, it's gonna. Folks, I can see you commenting in the chat section. Keep it coming. Do not be shy. I want to get as many voices as we possibly can. So get involved, get stuck in. In fact, what's going to happen now is we're going to split you up into breakout rooms because I want you to have a go at doing what we just did now. I want you to speak about how lockdown's been affecting your leadership journey. Has it been affecting your leadership journey? What have you learned during lockdown? No, have you been able to make any positive impact in the world? Like, really do share some of that if that's okay. And I would encourage you as well to show your camera. I know it's just long and you want to be alone and you're just in your bed. But I promise you, it will make this feel a bit more real, and also it will mean people can connect with each other a bit more. So I'm going to ask the host to split us out, or well, not all. I don't think I'm going. There's 3 different leaders. You've got Ade B, you've got Ade Doyen, and you've got George, and they're going to be leading the breakout rooms, just kind of getting the conversation going, chairing it for one of a better term. We'll be there for 10 minutes. We'll come back and we're going to get some feedback from you guys on how things have been going. So this is the kind of A-OK to say you can now split the room. Before I do that, I did promise to share Mike's face one more time, and that's his socials. If you're in case you're interested in finding out more about More Life Group and what they do, you can follow Mike there. And yeah, George, over to you.
Perfect. I think everyone's leaving into their breakout rooms now.
Superb. If you could just leave Josiah and Deborah in here, that would be lovely. That's if you can hear me, which doesn't seem like you can. Oh, he's gone. He is gone. Right, we've got 3 people who haven't got a room yet. Do you guys have a room or not yet? Some feedback. So I want to hear what happened, what's been going on. Folks think they caught me eating. You did not catch me. You can't catch a man who wants to be caught. Sounds like a proverb my mum would say. It's to wash it down. Right. So let's hear some feedback. Who wants to share some of the stuff that came up in that previous session? Feel free to put your hand up. We'll invite you up to speak. You can just tell us what you think, what happened, what some of the feedback. Any hands up?
How do you put your hand up on this?
Well, you're speaking now, Jess, so you're good.
We've been doing Zoom for months, for nearly a year, and I still don't know how to use it properly. That's just lockdown in a nutshell.
I love the flowers.
I
love the flowers in the back of your thing.
It's not even a fake background. It's a real thing. No, I think like one of the things that the people in our breakout room said was about communicating with your team. So, I mean, obviously I work with UMT at Common Sense, and sometimes it's okay just to not have a good week. And we're only human. We're only human. We only can do as much as we can. So being honest with your team and just going, hey guys, or hey everyone, I'm not having a great week this week. I need to take a bit of time. Let's catch up next week. Keep doing what you're doing. Just talking to them, because we're all in the same situation. I'm sure they've had those issues and maybe not wanted to air it, maybe not wanted to say that they're going through something not that great. So airing it and talking to your team, I think, is so important, because that's otherwise you just are in the dark and no one ever knows. So being honest and getting through it together, that was definitely a big thing that we spoke about.
That's so beautiful, because you've touched on there. Some of the I think is so important is the human spirit is a powerful, like it's powerful. We've been through the Black Death. We've been through plagues. We've been through so much. But the human spirit, for me, you know, you unlock it, for one of a better term, when you're honest, you're transparent, and you're real with the battle you're facing, so to speak. You know, I used to have a guy who I used to mentor, and he was public speaking. He said that every time he publics, before he steps in front of people to speak, he gets really, really nervous, and he was like, "Do you get nervous?" and stuff like that. And I remember sharing with him that if you're about to speak in front of 1,000 people, as was the case for him, and you don't feel anything, something's probably wrong, right? Chances are you don't really understand what you're about to do, or you're the type of person who thinks your life should be lived in front of 1,000 people, which let's be honest, no one is, right? So feeling that fear is absolutely fine. It shows you're alive, right? It shows you're alive. As Jess said, it might even mean you don't care. So caring's important. Being honest about how you feel, super important. So I'm so glad that came out. We're all human at the end of the day. We're not robots. As much as people may say, oh, you're a machine, you're not, you're a human being. So like, you know, it's okay to be. One more person or two more people. Anyone else want to share?
In our breakout room.
Now I only have one rule. I have to be able to see you. So oh yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yes, please.
Hi. In our breakout room, Malone was talking about being in the public light. And one thing he really said that stood out with me was, don't just be a leader with direction. And I feel like that's very, very important in this day and age with social media popping out and just kind of filtering out the noise and just going with your direction, with your vision and your choice and powering through with that.
Yeah. Love that. Leading with direction. Of course, as we said at the start, one of the first things you should do in a pandemic is almost withdraw and just work out, what's my plan? Where am I going? What's happening? It's okay to take stock and think about that. Later on in the session, we're going to go into detail about how to ask yourself tough questions, right? Even as a leader, just to work out, is what I'm doing working? Am I going the right way? But you're right about that direction. I see Emmanuel Busari.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm heading back.
Emmanuel, I'm struggling to hear you. You keep cutting out, unfortunately.
But one of the things I wanted to cover was at the start of the pandemic, I was seeing on social media a lot of people were really engaged in terms of producing a lot and creating a lot of things, content, and putting out. Don't come out of the pandemic with things to show for it. Like, make sure that you use this time wisely, whether in the spiritual aspect or in the creativity aspect. Make sure you use the time wisely and you've produced something. And I really felt like I want to match that without actually focusing on what it was that was passionate to me or what it was that I wanted to put out. I was just trying to put something out, and it worked out. The things just weren't really working out for me. Things weren't really starting up. Nothing was lifting off the ground until I actually sat down, like you just said, Michael, and took time back and actually planned and said, what is meaningful to me? What am I passionate about? What can I actually see myself devoting myself to wholeheartedly and leading properly? And that was where I started a Zoom fellowship, because that was something that I felt like, okay, this is something I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about people coming together and worshiping together. And I feel like this is something I can lead and I actually have a plan rather than just trying to do whatever was popular for the sake of having something to show for at the end. So I didn't want to get caught up in the whole social media thing.
Yeah. Superb. Well, I hope you get to wherever you're going, by the way, safely too. I haven't taken a call with someone moving for a while. So it's a wild thing for me to do, but there you go. You're right, though. You are so right. And that's a powerful thing to say as well. Leading with purpose, we've heard, and you're speaking there about, sometimes we confuse movement with progress. We just think if I'm moving, something's happening. Not true. You can, of course, go in the same direction or just spin around without much progress. What you want to be is a bee and not a fly. A fly buzzes around everywhere. Bees are a bit more directional. And so what we're talking about here is being intentional, taking time to plan, not falling prey to, trying to keep up with the Joneses and doing whatever you see online, but taking time to really work out, what do I want to do during this time? Like, what's important to me? What's of high priority to me? And in that way, with that clarity of thought, you're able to articulate that to other people and hopefully lead them forward. In the interest of time, we'll take one more. Anyone else? I'm going to scroll to see if I can see any hands. I don't see any hands.
I'm happy to share.
All right. Yes, please.
Sorry about my webcam. It's in a really weird place. But just to summarize our group, Jess said something really interesting about when obviously you're on Zoom and not everybody has their webcam on. And I know I started a new job and not everybody, leads the meeting. And as somebody who kind of wants to build or create a community, it's kind of really important to be intentional, which I know you said, about meeting with people and having something to say all the time. And I have this planner at the moment, which is so good. And it's meant to be like a high performance planner. and it gets you to do a prompt every day, and it actually says each day who you're going to reach out to, and also each day what are you going to do that helps you to build relationships. So I feel like now everybody's online. If you don't have like a position of leadership and you're just kind of like a student or like a graduate, then you just kind of have to build those connections and keep on talking regardless.
So true. You're speaking there. I think something you said there that's so powerful is momentum, and the importance of momentum of just getting started. Those planners are powerful because they're daily things, aren't they? And once you get started, you've just got to keep going. You know, my pastor used to say when I was younger, like half the battle isn't showing up, right? You know, you've just got to keep going. And so, you know, is that like a bespoke planner, or did you make it yourself? Like how can people get something like that to just help them with those daily prompts?
I'll link it to you. It's so good. It's by this coach. He's called Richard Bernard or something like that. And it's like helping you make those incremental steps. And then every morning kind of getting into that abundance mindset of like, this is who I'm going to be. And then setting yourself goals. And it's really good in lockdown because it's kind of like when there's not a lot of like changes, each day you can kind of see how you're progressing and building to become like better.
Love it.
I'll link it.
Yeah, I love it. I wrote I've got a newsletter where I wrote about being a 1% better not too long ago. I know that I received some feedback about that. I don't know if George has that link up, but that might help people who are interested in people like James Clear from Atomic Habits and other writers that speak about, you know, making incremental changes. And if you do that on a daily basis, you fast forward a year and you're a different person. You know, you don't even recognize yourself. And that happens from just being 1% better than the day before. So yeah, powerful stuff. Thank you for sharing that. That was really helpful. I'm going to try and pronounce your name. I don't have my glasses on, so forgive me if I'm wrong. Is it Tyrio?
Close, Triro. Not really that close, but I'll give it to you, you know.
I'm so sorry. I don't have my glasses on. So sorry. Forgive me. Right. But we're going to move to the next section, folks. You get to meet somebody who really you probably met already because he grew up in front of us, it seems. You're going to meet a guy called Josiah. We're going to have the second spotlight session now where we're going to meet Josiah. Hi, George, are you there? George is he there? Josiah's meant to kind of slide onto my screen. It's meant to be seamless. This is not what we rehearsed. There we go. There's Josiah. So I'm going to just share screen really quickly, just so you can see Josiah's social, in case you want to kind of go find him. Some know him as Mr. 200 meters. Some know him as Josiah. You know, and he's wonderful. He you know, I know Josiah leads or manages, you know, Noir Visuals. He manages Tribe 318. He works with all sorts of brands. He's a digital strategist. I could talk about him forever because he's genuinely brilliant. Josiah, just, you know, you've been here for a bit. You've been hearing us speaking. Tell us a bit about you before we get into some of the things you may think about what's been said so far. You know, what do you do in your own words? You know, how do you talk? Sorry, how do you think about your work and yourself?
Thank you for having me. This is really dope. I find that this season I've been attending more things to speak than to learn, and I'm really trying to get back into the learning. So it's nice to listen. But yeah, a little bit about me. I guess all I really do is really storytelling in its simplicity. So I work with people who are trying to get messages out there, people who are trying to build community. That's really what I really care about. So I work with people either through consultation, like trying to help the ideas be better, trying to help ideas grow, try to get things done creatively. And that's really through kind of like whether it's creating content or anything that has to do with the digital sphere, so like copywriting and just stuff like that. So that's really what I do. And I'm very meticulous with who I work with. I really want to work with people who really want to make a difference, because I believe like a great thing about, you know, leading people is making sure that you have the right people alongside you. So yeah, I mean, that's me. I guess that's what I do. It means I work on lots of different projects all around the world, and I get to liaise with a lot of people, and I work with like a lot of teams. But the day-to-day is like I executive produce like a podcast in the States. I am a creative director of a community called Bear of Paul, which is like for adult learning, basically in the US. and then I just consult with lots of brands, and then I run my own kind of like digital agency, which I'm building, just Tribe 318, which is really for creatives, trying to bring opportunities for creatives to actually do work and tell stories, really. So I guess that's some of the stuff I do. The rest I don't remember, because you do as you need to. Being ambidextrous.
I feel like you've come here to have a mic off competition, clearly, because I thought my mic was booming and then you started speaking, and I'm just thinking, well, I need to adjust my gain. I mean, how do I?
I was working on the.
Can you hear me now?
The camera was off.
Hold on, I'm being serious, by the way. How about now? Me and Josiah have great fun all the time. If you folks are interested, we just had a conversation actually on Common Sense where we spoke for 50 minutes about all sorts of different things. So you can check that out if you're interested in that. But Josiah, you're someone who I know is like, you're the king of like personal development, investing in yourself, that kind of stuff. So speaking to people here who some of them may be younger than you, and even those who are older, why are you so committed to developing yourself personally? And would you advocate that kind of way of life for other people who are listening to you?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I would. I think in a life where everybody's looking for like direction or looking for like a why, like you have the first why, like you have to make yourself the best person ever. I think that's a given. But I think, yeah, so I'm all about personal development because I really think about the future. I think about my family. I think about the family I want and all the things I'm responsible over. I really think about who they will meet every day. That's like a major driver for me. And a lot of it boils down to all the things I do today. And I guess it's so important that we do the hard work now. So like, I'll be honest, I don't want to be 40 and like lifting boxes and something. It's not my desire in life. I want to be doing work, but from up here, not from like my body, because, so I'm really, really prepared to do such hard work on myself to make sure that, number one, spiritually, I'm the man I need to be, physically, I'm the man I need to be. So then I can be better for the people. I can be more present for the people in my life at that stage when life might get more hectic, I'm in a pandemic. I don't have many stresses right now. And imagine being in this pandemic under different circumstances. So this is for me a beautiful time to show me that I still have so much time to develop myself. And I think it's imperative that, you have to lead yourself. I think to be able to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of who you are is a big thing. And I've had to make drastic changes because the person I've met isn't who I'm proud of. Yeah, everybody seems to be proud of him, and I don't like the idea. If people are going to applaud me, at least I got to be able to applaud myself. And I guess that's why I'm really big on personal development, because it's important for you to be happy with who you are, and there is no way I can get there unless I do the work. So I'm really big on it because I think it's important for people to be happy with who they meet in the mirror. Many people are not. A lot of people are sad. A lot of people are going through stuff. There's a lot of people right now more than ever really in need for something, and it's because who they meet by themselves, they're not really satisfied with, and they're in this paradox where they don't think they can become, who they actually can become. Just a little bit of changes. So yeah, I guess that's why I'm really driven.
Yeah, that's a great answer, man. And I think you're speaking truth to a lot of people's situation there. I want to ask you, I know you do a lot of different things. Obviously, I know you super well. You're my younger brother. So I know you do a lot of amazing things. I want to ask you about YouTube, not about what's the best YouTube videos to put out. Not that stuff. But more so, people look at you right now. They look at the life you're living. They look at, you see all the stuff you said when you were introducing yourself. And they're like, so when you started YouTube, did you think this is what you would be doing? And was this all like a master plan where you had everything figured out? Or were you just kind of like, just go with the flow and somehow you ended up here? And also, what I love about your kind of origin story, sounds like you're a villain. You do look like, Sideshow Bob, or, a bad, sorry, that's a compliment, it's a compliment. Yeah. So when you started your YouTube channel, did you, you started it with what did you start it with? Did you just kind of grab a camera and just get started, or did you have a plan? Because some people in here may be wondering, I've got a camera, should I jump into YouTube? I've got an idea, should I start a business? How did it happen?
I guess for me, I think I had a why, like I had a reason I started YouTube, and everybody thinks I started YouTube for like another reason. I started YouTube because I wanted to build a platform for young athletes. I was a sprinter who was desperately seeking, like I was leaving, I was leaving to university, had to change everything I know, coaches, team, have to go to this new place. So like, and I realized for a lot of athletes, the problem is motivation, like just waking up every day to go to training when it's cold, like that's hard. So I found that I found myself watching a lot of videos, but then a lot of them, these American guys like, man, you can get up every day, you can do it. And I'm like, I don't need that. That's not what I need. I need someone to tell me the truth. Like I need someone to tell me something that's applicable. Yeah, like someone's shouting at me and I'm running and I'm like, this isn't helping my lungs fill with air. I don't feel any motivation. So I thought to myself, like, if I could start kind of a more authentic, kind of like really chilled, laid back version where I just talk to young athletes, people who are beginners, not these established people, but people who are beginners, to make information free. Because I was raised in Coventry, I wasn't in London, and I believed in myself. I was a gifted athlete, but I didn't get the opportunity to get the best resources or information. So there was an information shortage for athletes, for people who didn't have access to pay all the most expensive coaches. So I thought, okay, cool. If I just interview some young people who have done it, can always share small tips that will drastically change somebody else's life. So that's why I started YouTube. So that was my reason. But then upon doing that, and then kind of like creating a team around it at the start of university, the aim was to try to build a following over the summer, so that by the summer, when we had established more of a plan of how we wanted to do it, I'd be able to be shooting the short films, etc. So we had that plan. So that was as much a plan I had. But I bumped into somebody, became business partners with somebody else, and then we did a platform somewhere else. So I had this YouTube channel that I had committed to. And then, so I was just like, okay, cool. I've already announced I'm going to commit to this channel. So the rest of it was just commitment, where I was at that time was, if I'm going to start something, I'm going to try to see it out. So that was as much as a plan I had. I just started to post. And then funny enough, everything fell in place where like life gave me, like, as soon as I let go of that cause and put it aside, I had another cause, that I had a platform where I was going through a unique issue that wasn't very unique. Lots of people are going through it, but it's like, you don't know it exists. And here I am I would never have imagined it was me. It would be me going through it. Here I am posting every day just as usual. And now I had like a new cause. So that's where everything started. And that was as much tactic as it was. The rest of it was simply turning up to my life. As simple as that sounds.
So how many videos have you posted so far?
Man, I don't know. I have a lot of videos. So I mean, I pretty much vlogged every day from around like April to like September one year. So I have like a lot of videos.
Would you say it's more than 200?
I think so. Yeah, maybe.
I only asked that because obviously some people are like, I'm not growing on YouTube, and they have like 3 videos, or like 4, and they're not committed to that kind of. You have to just post relentlessly every day, stay consistent, keep going out there. Funny enough, like training, obviously I have a sprinting background, and we train on Christmas Day. If it snowed, you train. If it rains, you train. You just train. That kind of relentless commitment is something I think you've modeled so well. And as a lesson for people who are listening to take away, that's something else to really take seriously. This year, we're still very much at the start of the year. Whatever you do, whether you're starting a YouTube channel or you're starting a business, consistency in your output is so important. You must do it. You must be consistent. I'm going to ask you a similar question to what I asked Michael, which was, what's the last thing you learned about leadership that kind of made you go, interesting?
I think what really drives me, what really drives a leader to be a real leader is sometimes the fear of being found out. I think that's really what it is. The idea that somebody's going to walk into the room and then they're going to say, like, you're not good enough. And there's a bunch of people that you lead and they're like, oh my God, that's our leader. So I think that drives me to always inch forward every day, because, there's times in your life where you don't know where you're going, but you kind of almost fake it till you make it. But as a leader, like, I guess the greatest thing I've learned is to make sure you lead yourself first, like be the person rather than how I look for, so that's been a huge driver for me, because it's very easy as a leader to speak because you know the answers to most problems, because you're the person that kind of micromanages. And when I'm dealing with lots of people now, like my team's expanding, it's very easy to kind of host because people can do the work for you, right? But the reality is, it keeps me up at night knowing that, okay, cool, someone's gonna come and tell me, oh, you're fake. Like, oh God. but I love that.
Please get some sleep. I don't know, I feel like this is we're having a little therapy here. So why aren't you sleeping, Josiah? When did the problem begin?
My dreams.
my dreams keep me up at night.
Yeah.
Well, listen, that's so helpful. And I hope people do follow, because you post videos, you talk a lot about this thing. And what I love is what you said about, the impetus, if you like, for the Young Athlete TV that I know you were doing at the time. You wanted to make information free. And in a similar way to those listening to this now, I don't want you to look at some of these guys and girls about to come up and see them as like, this is really, you can do every single thing that's just been said today, right? This year can be the best year of your life. Why? Because we're learning how to deal with uncertainty. We've already gone through 4 different practical things you can do personally that will change your response. We're about to go to what you can do with your organization. Take note from someone like Josiah, who's been through the same pandemic, and Michael, who have been through the same pandemic, and somehow are managing to, through all the duck and dives and the bad and the good, somehow, the person before you now is smarter, is more resilient, is more driven, and I know is dripping in ambition. And no doubt we're gonna watch him do amazing and just ridiculous things. So thank you for being part of this conversation. You guys are in for a treat, because straight from this, I'm bringing on our next speaker, who is Deborah Igunma from Peak. Is Deborah here? Yes, she is.
Yes. Don't butcher my surname like that.
I'm so sorry. So how do I say it properly?
Igunma.
That's what I said.
Yeah, no. You said Igunma. It's all right though. It's all right. Oh, and Peak is spelled incorrectly.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay. So let's not think about that. Let's get. I know. Just full transparency. Are you behind? Are you in an office right now?
No. I'm in my room. Yeah, I'm in my room at the moment, basically. So, yeah.
I don't know. I was gonna be like, how come it's so well lit? But I just realized, yeah, never mind. Right. This is the joys of the world we live in. Well, listen. I'm gonna do a lot of talking in this one. I want people to meet you because you're brilliant. And I've been trying to. I know we've been trying to connect and it's been a crazy time. Someone said nice bedroom. Thank you, Elijah. Tell people what you do, who you are, and what Peak is. Just so they get a sense of what you're trying to do, because you've got a ridiculous ambition with this thing. And I think people all listening will probably go, huh? When they hear, but you tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. That introduction was a bit too flattering. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great to be here as well. So in terms of Peak, basically, Peak is a social reading app that pays readers to discuss their favorite books with others. And so what I'm doing here basically is ushering readers into the creator economy. What is the creator economy? It's this huge economy of about 50 million people at the moment who are merging work and play. So we're seeing it with YouTube, we're seeing it with TikTok, we're seeing it with Udemy, all these platforms that allow people to make a living from their interests. This is the future of work, right? We want to do things we're interested in, and we'd love even more to be paid for that. And I'm introducing readers into that space, basically. I don't know why they haven't been here, but now's the time to do it. And so I'm the founder of Peak, essentially. And recently we've just been onboarded onto this world-class accelerator. It's backed by Stripe, this is huge fintech, and other players. And aside that, actually, I have another side project. I have a side project essentially that's called Clef, and Clef allows people to invest in their favorite musicians. I won't go into depth about it, but in terms of the second question you asked, in terms of like who I am, I guess just a bit of context for everybody on the call. So my background is basically in like loads of different things. So I started off in banking, and that was just doing a few internships, Barclays, Fidelity International, didn't really like it that much. And then I looked at tech. So I interned at Google, which was just amazing, spent half of my time in machine learning and sales. Then after that, tried a bit of politics as well, just really looking at tampon tax, actually, like campaigning for tampon tax at the Houses of Parliament, looking at how policies of that nature affect women of color in inner city areas. And then shortly afterwards, I would graduate. So I graduated in 2019, recent graduate. I think I can still say that, so I don't feel old. But a recent graduate, and then I studied abroad a bit at Harvard just before I went into my investment banking career, basically. I would then resign to just go full throttle with entrepreneurship, which is where I am now. So I believe those are the questions that you asked me.
Loved it. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can see the comment section. People are just like, wow, 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 wow. So, I mean, you've just achieved so much in such a short space of time, and no doubt there's so much more coming. You know, I want to dig in a bit into how or when, if you like, some of these things started. So, with Peak, when did that idea kind of come to you?
Yeah, definitely. So this was April 2020, basically. So last year, literally. My friends and I are avid readers. That's why I loved Michael's comment about like readers are leaders. It sounds so cheesy because people have proper stretched it out now, but like honestly, the value is just it's crazy. Like it's so true. So my friends and I read a lot, and we used to kind of read and then call each other basically afterwards to kind of just talk about what we've read and what have you. But I think for me, I just wanted a place where I just have this space solely where I talk about books basically. And so, you know, we have Kindle where you can read your book, and we have Goodreads where you can see what other people are reading. But I want a space to read with others, basically alongside others, not just to talk about the books. And then I'd also like to financially empower storytellers, basically. So your authors, your reading influencers, and what have you, and allow them to monetize this pastime of them that's just so valuable to us. And so that came in April 2020. And I just kind of played around with the idea a bit, stress tested it a bit. You know, it's not all of the ideas that you have that you should immediately jump at. And so I just kind of stress tested it a bit. And then I just said, okay, I mean, this is actually a really, really cool idea. The creator economy is huge. The reading space is huge. There hasn't been innovation in it for a long time. It's a passion of mine. And so I just kind of went on with it, really.
What I love about this, I'm trying to keep an eye on the comments as well. So keep your comments coming, guys, if you want to say something. Is this was founded, or this idea was born in lockdown. And that's one of the things I thought was really interesting about your story, because when you think about, you know, the Instagrams of the world and some of these apps we use now, it's been well documented that a lot of them were founded during the 2008 financial crisis, or the last quarter of 2007, really, right? But, you know, and so in these times of great loss where people are spun, to borrow a colloquial term, people dug down, got planning, got inventive, and built apps that really have now shaped how we do, you know, public discourse. I mean, just all these different things. Peak was born in the middle of a global pandemic, and I have a creeping suspicion that it will go on to achieve similar heights and do similar things. So the question is, if not more, I have to be, I'm a black, I have to say, if not more than what the farmers have done. The question to you is, you know, what were the difficulties? Like, did lockdown actually affect how you tried to get this thing off the ground? And what do you think it is about the season that we were in that April time and this period as well that's allowed you to be successful even in the middle of a global pandemic?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just, I think it's been a very weird time. It's been a weird time, but strangely enough, like we had more time to ourselves basically. And so naturally, actually, like reading had like quite an uptick, like just because people had more time to read anyway. And so like that was quite helpful just in terms of just what I'm doing. And strangely enough as well, this is actually kind of weird for me to speak about. So it's kind of a silver lining, should I say? I don't even know if I can call it a silver lining, but unfortunately in the year 2020, like even like besides the pandemic, we had a few things that kind of shaped our political climate. There were a few events across the pond in America, for example, over here as well, that really highlighted some of the racial tensions and political tensions that we still have in our communities. And as a result of that, there were a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities that were given to people that look like myself. And so at the time, literally, there were a lot of opportunities for grants for people from a Black background that are Black, and funding opportunities essentially for people that look like myself. So I think it's strange in the sense of like, it was a really weird time, but weirdly enough, like I feel like it was the perfect time for me to sort of embark on this journey. But yeah, it's been a strange one, honestly. Like it's still a strange one now. Like as you can see, I'm speaking to you in a headscarf, right? Like in my room, like same. I'm merging, yeah, like I'm proper merging my work and my play, and even that has been a bit like difficult. I don't even associate my bed with rest anymore. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. But I think we just have to move.
You're doing brilliantly, and I want people to ignore the spelling of peak and follow Deborah online. Follow her, watch this journey. I mean, everyone's saying, wow. I want us to take that energy, put it into a bottle and give that straight to her. So go follow her. Go find out more about what's happening with Peak. And like I said, you're a great demonstration of, when things have been, torn down and there's confusion everywhere. Well, it's a great time to get creative, right? It's time to utilize and turn good into bad. I know it, again, to coin another cheesy line, it's like, oh, turning good to bad. Well, folks, there are people doing it out. There are people doing it, and they're helping people. They're making impact. They're making profit, and they're changing the world. So, I think we've had a world changer with us today. So thank you for being part of this call. And we're gonna keep on going. But do make sure you follow Deborah online and everyone else I've spoken to today as well. Let's just take a temperature check, because I know we're all a bit probably. So, folks, how are you feeling? Let me know in the comment section. How are you feeling? What are some of the things in your mind right now? What are you thinking? Has speaking to Deborah, to Josiah, to Michael, has it prompted any thoughts in your head? People say motivated, inspired. I love it. Empowered. Yeah, get it. Inspired. Love it. Very inspired. Amazing. I love what Deborah said too about exploring. That's one of the things I love is when I tell people my work journey, they're like, huh? I've done so many random stuff. But it's all just, I'm curious. And I'm going to follow curiosity. And as you follow curiosity, you might land on something that works or something that doesn't. But we're human beings, and we should be allowed to satisfy our curiosity. Right, folks? So, of course, you have to look at yourself personally during lockdown. Of course, you got to do that. But after you've worked out how to orientate yourself so that you're ready, like a arrow being pulled back, you're ready to go, you then have to think about your organization that you lead, right? And so when we think about the external, what's super important is navigating complexity. This is the defining thing, if you like, for our age. I'm actually speaking. Where am I speaking? I think I'm speaking soon somewhere. I don't know where, but I'm speaking about complexity, navigating complexity. In 2014, I believe, the World Economic Forum and Harvard and all these other places that publish, reviews, as it were, they published what they thought would be the top skills that would shape world leaders and dominate the world in 2021 and beyond. And top of that list was the ability to solve complex problems. Now, we couldn't have foreseen COVID-19. We just couldn't. However, the world, as you know it, is becoming increasingly interconnected, and as a result, is increasingly complicated. So what leaders must do is have organizations that they don't see simply as it's just an organization. No, it's just a business. It's just a Bible study group. It's just no. You got to stop seeing it as that and realize that organizations are complex systems. In fact, one of the major things that helps me think about organizations that I look after is to sometimes not see them as organizations, but to see them as organisms, because they are living things, right? With people. Josiah said it already. No, it wasn't Josiah. Michael said it, that you're not leading a team. You're leading a team of individuals, right? You're leading individual people. So solving complex problems will be the defining thing as we move forward in this pandemic, but also beyond it when things have gotten better. So how then do you lead in a time of uncertainty considering your team? Well, I want us to focus on three short things. One is regrouping and setting clear goals. And how do you ensure that your work becomes gives your employees, sorry, I'm used to training kind of C-suite folk, but your work can create a sense of community for your organization. How do you make sure your prime concern is your employees and members of your team? And how do you employ frequent resetting? Three major things we're going to go through, right? Folks, I want to remind you about the socials down there. Please connect on socials. Makes it easier for us to connect with you as soon as this is done. You can see the two socials down there. They are the same: Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is. Just make sure you follow, subscribe, be a part of this community as it grows. Three things, right? Three things, three colors, three people, three things. So let's get into the first one, right? First one is this. You have to have goals for your team. I talk about goals all the time. In fact, I'm annoying myself as I speak because I'm saying things I say almost every day. When it comes to helping your team navigate uncertainty, whether it's a team of 2 or 5, you have to bring them together and you have to set goals. Goals give you a sense of direction, right? And when I say goals, I don't mean wishes. I mean written goals. These are what I call discipline-inducing goals. These are goals that are big, and they're clear, and they're succinct, and they're directed. We do this because athletes do this. Successful business people do it. Everyone who achieves speaks about the goals they've set. Now, in a time of uncertainty, these goals can help you commit to a long-term mission or vision, but also, catch this, they help you with short-term motivation. Most of us who feel disillusioned and confused by the time we're in probably don't have goals that excite us enough to bring out motivation in us. So these goals are crucial because when things fall apart, you can hold on to them. When things aren't going well, you can go, at least I know where I'm aiming for, right? When you set clear goals and define goals, it helps you measure where you're at. I remember a young guy, again, that I used to mentor, I was speaking to him, and I told him, I said, why? Because I always tell him, set goals, set goals, set goals. And he wasn't setting goals. So I said, why don't you set goals? And he said, well, I don't want to fail. So he said that I don't set goals because if I don't set goals, I can't fail. And I said, no. If you don't set goals, you will fail because you have no clue where you're headed. Everything is success. If you have no goals, everything is success. But it's success only to you. And you have to fool yourself. You have to put a blindfold on to live a life like that. When you have a goal, it gives you a chance to measure how you're actually objectively doing. You can't just lie to yourself. And if you said, I want to start that society in university in first year uni, you can't graduate and say, yeah, I still achieved it, even though you didn't start it. No, goals put a line in the sand so you can measure how far you've traveled from when you started, but also how close you are to achieving said goals. It gives you a sense of pride when you move closer. It gives you something to think about when you're not quite where you should be. You have to have written goals, and your organization needs to come together and rally around those goals. The reason they're important, folks, is because goals will give your team self-confidence. It will help them recognize their ability. It helps them understand whether their competence is increasing. To give you a quick insight into what most C-suite folk think about, it's the competence of their teams. It's annoying because most trainers try to get them to think about the well-being, but on the top of their agenda, oftentimes when you have a consultation before you say, okay, I'm going to come and do this, shouting at your staff thing, what would you like them to learn? They're like, we want them more competent. And I'm like, oh gosh, because competence is a predictor in the capitalist system we live in for success. The more competent you are, typically speaking, ceteris paribus, all other things have been held equal, the more successful you'll be. So folks, this year with your team, you have to set goals. Please do that immediately after this call. The second thing we spoke about, right, is about prioritizing the well-being of your team. What I mean by this is lockdown, coronavirus, however you want to say it. What it's done is it's shown us the massive gaps that exist in our skills. You remember the first few months of lockdown, also being like trying to navigate Zoom, trying to navigate Microsoft Teams. I don't know who uses Microsoft Teams, but some people out there use it. I think it's the worst one personally, but whatever. Second only actually to Adobe, which some people use, which is just that kind of right. But COVID or this lockdown season, it's really revealed to us, right, how brittle some of our businesses are, how inefficient some of our working practices are. So what you must help your team do during this time is commit to upskilling and reskilling. because the terrain has changed. And as a result, they have to become more agile, right? So if you've got a team you lead, this is something you must do. Ask yourself, how do I upskill my team? If you've got a team of editors, how do I train them? How do I help them reskill? We've had to do this as an organization now that we have people working even more remotely than we did before. You know, I'm part of so many projects where I've never met people because they work in like Ireland or something. So ask yourself, how do I help my team reskill or upskill during this time? That will be a game changer for you. The final thing you must do in the interest of time is you have to ask the right questions. You know, one thing lockdown helps you do as a team is soul searching. So one thing we must do, because remember, we've been in lockdown now for almost a year. We're nearing up to the year anniversary and to when lockdown was first called. Ask yourself some of these questions. By the way, this resource will be available immediately after at youthschoolofleadership.com, youthschoolofleadership.com, and you can get these questions in case you can't be bothered to write them down. Ask pointed questions that allow you to evaluate what your team's doing. What goals and objectives have you accomplished so far? How has performance related to those goals been measured up against the success criteria you agreed upon at the start of the year, right? What goals and projects still need to be accomplished? What goals are no longer relevant or high priority? What this speaks to is an agile organization. And in an ever-changing terrain, you have to be agile. If you're going to succeed this year, you have to be agile. You know, we've been trying to start some projects now for a while. And, you know, when we first went to start them, it was just before lockdown. Lockdown was called. We paused them and we said we just have to wait for lockdown to be over. But here's the thing, just to burst some of our bubbles. Even when lockdown is over, it won't be over. Now, I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist. Everyone's like, no. What I mean is, from what I've read in the news, traveling in the way we used to know it, that may come back in 2024. That's 3 years away. Folks, the big surprise of this session is you're going to need this for the foreseeable future. And some may go, this is an oddly themed session, seeing as we're coming out of lockdown in April. You're not. This is something. Sorry, I know someone's like, no, I shouldn't have signed on. but folks, you have to realize that what we're discussing now it is of critical importance if you're gonna be able to thrive in this increasingly tumultuous and confusing environment we live in. These questions, asking pointed questions, allows your team to hit the reset button. And ultimately, by hitting that reset button, you're able to work out what's working, what's not working, and make changes sooner rather than later. What I want to do now is invite some of you through an interactive workshop of sorts to share with me, if you want to, some of the complex problems that your organization or what you're leading may be going through. And live in front of everybody, because you have to be bold enough to do so, we can try to decipher some of these things and hopefully provide value to some people watching. After that's done, we'll go into a period of general Q&A where you can ask more directed questions. I'll invite some of the young leaders back up. And so you can ask questions specifically about what's going on, right? Questions about what we've discussed today, and we can have a back and forth. But before we do that, who wants to kind of share a bit about their organization and maybe a problem they're going through? And I'm happy to give consultation. I should note that this is normally very expensive and it's free. So take use of it, use it. I make no qualms about saying that. It's just, I'm more than willing to do this because of our wonderful sponsors, Nurturing Foundations. We can do something like this. So floor's open. Put your hand up if that's okay. And then George will do the selecting and we'll get straight into things. And in the interest of time, we're going to be pithy, quick, and succinct. So forgive me if you're like, Mike, you're being quick. It's just because we want to get as many people in as possible. So first is Hannah.
Hiya.
How do you do?
I'm good.
Now, tell us a bit about your, the kind of issue, problem whatever you want to call it, that may be going on?
So basically, I have recently become a life coach, and I'm finding it quite difficult to get new clients, really. Like
Superb.
social media, I'm okay with it, but I'm not the best. So getting out there, reaching people to clients, then it's been quite difficult for me.
Yeah, it is difficult. So I assume you have a website?
Not yet, no.
Cool. So what might be good to do is to create some sort of home, if you like, of where your content sits. And that's where people can interact with you, book you, find out about, all the people you've coached, maybe some testimonials, whatever you want to call it, a nice corner of the internet, right? And what social media is good for is social media can do what's called establishing a pathway of discovery. What that means is you do stuff on social media. Someone goes, oh, this is interesting. They click on your bio, they click on your name. Somehow they end up at your website where now you've got them. And then that way they can engage with you in a meaningful way. Sometimes what you got to do is map the pathway for people. I talk about it sometimes, like even with websites. If you have a website business where you want subscribers, well, ask yourself, when people log onto the site, how do they end up subscribing? Map the journey for people. And once you map that journey, reverse engineer and build a system that gets you that way. There's lots of other things you can do, collaboration, getting yourself out there, networking. These are things I think and you're probably going to do anyways. But I think you should build a website, build a corner of the internet, and they're very cheap these days. And two, work out a pathway of discovery that begins on social media where you can entertain and give people some value, right? With the intention that value takes them down a pathway where they end up at your website and they end up booking you. I can tell you stories of random bookings I've had from, like, someone said, I saw you tweet about Beyonce. I clicked on it. Turns out you're a trainer. And I'm like, and now they're a client. And that's what happens with social media and building that pathway of discovery. So I hope that helps you. But yeah, thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
No problem at all. You're welcome. Right, there's 4 hands. George, you're the all-powerful curator here. Do your thing. Hey, Luthando, is that correct?
No, it's Lutando.
Lutando. Hey, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you all. So the problem which I faced during the lockdown is I lost every single restaurant and school which I was supplying to because they closed during lockdown. So I supply biscuits to them. And during that time, all businesses either shut down or weren't operating. So now it's just getting back into the rhythm of getting new customers and new clients. So I just wanted you to suggest maybe a way of finding innovative ways of finding new clients.
Yeah. Well, do you sell direct to consumer or you don't do that yet?
No, directly to companies.
Okay. Well, that's probably one of the places I would begin, right? If companies are shut, there's very little you can do. Like, you're kind of, your hands are tied.
They opened now.
Oh, they're open. Oh, superb. Well, there you go. Where are you calling from? Just so I have some context.
I'm calling from South Africa.
Okay, superb. I don't know much about that market, but so let me be clear about what you're saying. Companies are open. You supply biscuits to them. Are things starting to go well again? Are things moving, or there's still hiccups, or how do you describe things now?
Things are starting to slowly move back to the rhythm they were going in before lockdown, but some of the companies closed down completely and aren't operating anymore.
Yeah, I got you. Well, listen, there's many ways to get to London. Let's put it that way, right? So there's anyone you go to, they'll give you lots of advice. I for one, the reason I asked you about direct to consumer is because one of the ways you can ring fence your business so that future pandemics, future lockdowns, future strains don't affect it is to start thinking of whether you can develop a compelling, consumer brand, if you like, that you can also kind of market directly to people, whether it's a website they can buy it from, whether it's a blog where you can talk about biscuits and what you do, whether it's a page on social media that people can interact with, essentially building a community of direct consumers as well as selling to brands that means that, you know, whatever happens, they know they can come to you to get what it is you're kind of offering. That's my preference, and I advise that for people because I think it's by far the most ring-fenced and sustainable form of business, is to have a direct consumer base that engage with your products, that are essentially, you know, committed to it, irrespective of what happens. Unless you are physically shut down, you will always have customers at your door. I understand that might mean a totally different business model. But if you asked me, that's what I'm more familiar with. And like, I've helped people do that, and I can talk about that at length. In terms of supply chains and stuff like that, I don't know much about that. Added to the fact that it's in another country, you know, I would be shooting in the dark there. But that's what I would suggest. Ring fencing your business. One of the best ways to do that is to establish a consumer brand. And maybe you make it a subsidiary to your supply business. You make it something else. But that, for me, I've seen, even in this lockdown, some of the businesses that have done the best, right, are online business, consumer brands that people directly buy from and consume. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Super.
Thank you.
But feel free to DM me, by the way, because I can connect you with someone who I think is more confident in that sort of supply chain aspect of things. I'm more than happy to do that.
Thanks.
No problem
I'll
at all.
definitely.
Yes, DM me. Right. Anyone else? George, in the interest of time, we'll take 2 more. Hey.
I'm on mute. Sorry, I just said, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I just had a quick question. I've got an online platform and we have like a team of 8 tutors, but I don't know how to I want all the tutors to get to know each other and align themselves with the goals of the company. But I don't know how to build like a community over Zoom. We just started just pre-lockdown. So a lot of them don't really know each other, and I'm kind of like anxious on bringing them on Zoom and things like that. I don't know how to like build a community.
It's really hard. I mean, let's just put it out there. It's super hard. Zoom is not ideal, but you know, unfortunately, we're in a pandemic, and I think that's just what makes it. Because I'm one for, you know, meeting up, and I'm sure you have ideas to bring people together. Maybe it's over coffee, it's over food, whatever it is. Honestly, it might sound dumb, but I would just, I would do Zoom. I would just get them together, because at the bare minimum, it just gives people a chance to see each other and hear each other, which is how any community needs to begin, I think. Now, of course, there's other options. You can decide to not do a visual community. It can be a writing community on Slack where folks just kind of comment and share with each other. It can be, I mean, there's lots of different places you can build your community, but ultimately what communities need to thrive is meaningful exchange, not with you and them, but with you and them and them and each other. Because then it's a community. Yeah. So the connection isn't just to you. Because I just from the way you're speaking, I can tell you're probably messaging it all personally. You've got lots of charisma and energy. But if you're not careful, what happens is you're the leader. They're all connected to you, but they don't know each other. And for that to be the case, I just think at the bare minimum, you just need to use what you've got and just concede that this is not ideal. Say it to them, like, this is not ideal, guys, right? But we're just going to use what we have and just get started with just, chats, conversations, virtual teas. The novelty of having a virtual meal with someone is always a bit interesting. So do something like that. Everyone cooks up a meal, takeaway, come together. I mean, you can be funny and kind of, and quirky with it, but I would just get started at that level. And generally speaking, with communities, they need nurturing, they need energy, they need authenticity, and they need connection. Multiple different types of connections, zigzagging all across each other. But yeah, I have a feeling you're going to be okay. So, I wish you well.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks.
No problem at all. Right, we'll take one more because of time, and then we'll bring up the youth, the young leaders, and we'll open up to a general Q&A. But anyone else experiencing anything? Hey, Tolu.
Hiya. My challenge right now is I set up a diversity committee at my school last year, actually.
Superb.
But I'm leaving school this year, and it was something that I'm really passionate about, but not necessarily everyone coming after me. So how can I make sure that this survives past me?
That's superb, and what a wonderful question. That's the way to build, to ensure things last before you. In fact, the measure of good builders are builders who can leave what they've built and it still stays standing. I mean, imagine your house, the builder stood next to it, like, don't touch that. You'd be like, don't think we should be. I don't think I should be living here, right? So wonderful question. Well, yours is so specific, isn't it? Because of course, schools. Did you say it was in a school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, schools have such a specific structure. You gotta find permanent staff and get them on your side, as it were, because they're the people who steward most things schools build. If not, and I know right now there's a high turnover of staff in schools. So if you find a French teacher who loves what you've done and is kind of committed to it, they may not be there, as you know, in the next year. So finding as many people in SLT, the senior leadership team, or find as many people who are permanent staff to really understand your vision, understand the importance of the thing, getting them committed to it is probably something I would kind of err on. Because no matter what you build, if there's no energy or appetite for it, it will eventually dry out and die, as you know. So your job now is, before you leave, how do you rally people, and become an evangelist of sorts for your kind of, for your issue, so that you can just get as many people, especially SLT, committed as possible. I started councils in my school. There's still that I was in secondary school, God knows, I don't want to, a while ago. but if I can't even do the maths. Oh my God, I'm actually old. Oh no, I never thought this day would come. Sorry. Yes, I'm having an existential moment. But if you do that, I hope that makes some sense. That may actually help to kind of establish things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Superb. Well, good luck with it.
Thank you.
I think I saw one more hand up. Oh no, it's gone. It's gone. Right.
Yeah, sorry, it was me. Sorry, because you said there was one more person, so I put it back down.
It's your lucky day. Go ahead, brother.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, there
thank
you
are.
Oh, you've got to where you're going. You've got to where you're going.
Yeah, I did. Thanks.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. It was a safe journey. Thank you. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I had a fellowship that I run via Zoom that I started in the first lockdown, and thank God a couple more people have kind of joined on, and we have hey Josiah, we have a couple more people that are on board, and we've been running it for a while now, coming close to like 7 or 8 months. But one of the problems I faced mainly is that the need for the fellowship hasn't changed. So a lot of people that come have expressed that they enjoy it and they want it to stick around. But it's been just myself and my friend who've been running it for a while now, and we have uni and so many other responsibilities around us. So we've tried our best to run it, but what I find is that we haven't been as effective or as dedicated to it as we should be, just because of the demand of it. And I did try to introduce the idea of having a few people who were regulars at the session that had kind of a desire to assist or lead or co-lead with us. I introduced the idea of them, helping us out in that stead and coming on board and forming maybe like an administrative board of leaders that could take over whenever one is not available. And that I kind of put the idea out there and they were for it. But since then, I've been trying to get it on board, and it hasn't. Yeah, it's like the motivation has kind of just dropped, and I don't want to carry on with half leadership. I want to get people that can actually help me to devote everything that we need to devote to the fellowship to help people. So my question is, how do I relight that fire of motivation that they had initially to help out and join and help me lead the session, so that people can actually be led effectively?
Yeah, I got you. Again, that sounds like a contextual thing. I'll probably ask like 5 more questions, but I know that we don't have the time. Well, oddly enough, you'll remember at the start of this session, we spoke about, as a leader, your primary concern has to be the well-being of your kind of team. And one thing to be very aware of is what lockdown's done is it's made people act in really kind of weird ways, because remember, this is an unprecedented kind of problem. And I know it may seem like, oh, it's not that deep, it's just lockdown to you. but you have no clue how it emotionally affects other people. So the first thing I would try and do if I were you is really ascertain what's going on. And I know it might sound like, well, they're just students, they're in uni. You know, it's like, yes, but emotionally a lot happens with people. And when people lack motivation, I find that a motivational, you being like, you can do it, woo, may help you short term because they suddenly feel ready again. But if there's a chronic problem there, that's not solved. And so it will, like whack-a-mole, come back later on. So what you want to do is solve this once and for all, which means to first ascertain what's going on with them, right? What's happening? How's lockdown affecting you? No, what's going on with you? Not because of my business, but just in and of itself, right? Because as you do that as a leader, you can start to ascertain if it's even the right time for them to be in leadership. Like I've spoken to someone who's like, I've lost my job, can't pay my bills. And I'm like, all right, I think it's best you take some time off, right? Because now I'm starting to understand that you know, there's something going on with them. So that's the first thing. Now, assuming you've done that, you know, with leadership, it can be complicated, but ultimately, I would use some of the things we spoke about today. You know, once you've agreed that they should be here, then set them together goals that they're passionate about achieving too. Because what I find about goals that are genuinely kind of, you know, people are passionate about is if it's a goal they care about, that is consistent with something called their subjective motivational set. And what that means is something they genuinely want to achieve, right? That kind of goal, it inspires people beyond your cadence and your ability to be dynamic. That's the stuff that will take them through really kind of, you know, hard times, is realizing I'm here for a reason. So I would put the question to you, like, to what degree do they know why they're there? To what degree are they motivated about the goals? Were they part of creating the goals? Was it your vision? And now you kind of, and they were like, we're doing it because we love you. And now they're like, actually not really into it anymore. These can be hard things and hard pills to swallow as a leader, but it's better you do that now than temporarily solve a problem that will crop up again in the future. Those are the few things I would do. And like I said, anything that's more specific or contextual, like everybody else, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to have a more specific chat, because I know, I was part of all these university things as well, so I know that there can be more going on than meets the eye, right? But that would be my general advice. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Thank you.
Superb. No problem at all. Right. Well, now it's the time you've been waiting for, folks. We're going to invite back Josiah, Deborah, and Michael, if they're still on the call, to have a Q&A. Now, this you can ask about anything you want. I would try to keep it about leadership if possible, but feel free to ask questions. Is Deborah still in the room? Is Michael still in the room? Are they gone? All right, there's Michael. Superb. That's his head. Lovely. Anyone else? Is Deborah still here? No. I can see George just frantically looking for Deborah's name. Right. Deborah's not here, unfortunately. That's a shame. The office she's in is probably closed, so she's had to go home. Right. So, folks, floor is open. I can see your comments, and you can put your hand up, but this is a virtual panel, so feel free to ask questions, and I'll point them to different people. Right, so we've had Hannah ask the first question. I see Kenneth as well. So let's start with Hannah. I'm going to shoot this conflict one straight to Michael, and then the second one thing a leader should not do, straight to Josiah. Folks, I want you to keep it short so we can get lots in. So Michael, how do you handle conflict in your team?
That's a good question. Interesting. I think it starts with how you approach conflict within team settings. I think there's always two main reasons. One, there's a misalignment in terms of values of each person. In terms of sometimes you actually have individuals who just don't have the core values you need in a team, like mutual respect. Most times it's actually the latter, the second option, which is miscommunication. From what I've seen, and people always have different agendas, people always have different motives for doing things, people also have different ways they like to do things. And a lot of the times I've realized from having probably more intimate conversations between two individuals who have had a scuffle or falling out or somebody's reached out to me on private message saying, I don't like the way this person speaks to me, or this person's undermining my authority, etc., etc. Most of the time it's just a miscommunication because they don't actually know each other. And especially during COVID, that's happened so many times, I can't even explain it to you, because they don't understand how each other relate, how each other want to be related to as well. It often means that you miscommunicate things or you interpret things differently than how it actually is meant to be received. So how I've tried to really mitigate that moving forward is, you need to get, and you need to develop that community, like Mike was saying. You need to make sure that people know each other in and out as a team, and see it as, like you said, an organism that needs to be fed. Each other need to be fed. They need to be able to understand each other, empathize, and stuff like that. So that's how you would try to manage it in future. When it happens, honestly, you don't want, like, for me, I'm the type of person, you don't let everybody know that the house is on fire. Do you know what I mean? Like, you sort it out privately. You don't let everybody know in these meetings. I've had meetings where people draw each other out. None of that. Like, well, on the surface, I think, Mike, I remember you said this, on the surface, you're like a swan. On the surface, graceful, elegant. Underneath, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of ruffles. There's a lot of things moving and going on. So behind the scenes, it's all about dealing with it privately.
That's good.
But
I'm like a swan now, because I'm really hungry. So my belly is like rumbling, but my head is very calm. So no one knows, you know? But yeah, that's a good one. That's very, very good. There's a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to just zig through. So folks, again, nice and short. I wish Deborah was here. It's just 3 guys. We need to wish there should be a woman in this. Anyways, let's just go straight to Josiah. I guess, well, you have long hair, so.
So mine is one thing a leader should not do.
That's the one.
I think a leader shouldn't become deaf to his team. I think it's important to continually welcome different voices, different opinions, but in that is to keep track of what you really want to achieve, but don't lose yourself in the vision. Actually be receptive to the changes that happen around you. So yeah.
One quick thing I'll mention actually about conflict, just so we're just in case. So I actually do a whole masterclass on 3 hours on managing conflict. Conflict is not bad. Conflict is good, typically, because it means people care. When people don't care, they're apathetic. They're just. So conflict is normally good. The problem is, how do you channel all that energy into something productive rather than something reductive? So how do you have people? Because if we're arguing about but we're pulling in the same direction, that's great. But if we're pulling in opposite directions, that's when conflict is a problem. But in and of itself, conflict isn't bad. I know teams are like, oh, let's never have a spirited debate. No, let's have a spirited debate, because we all care about what we're going to do with the 10,000 pound grant we just got. Like, let's debate it, you know? So I wouldn't shy away from that, but that's something. Right, straight over to Kenneth, who's going to ask us his question. So over to you, Kenneth.
Oh yeah, thank you. Good evening, everybody. My first question is, Mike, on your first slide, you said plan, yeah?
Yeah.
I was wondering, by plan, do you mean plan for every single scenario? Like every single scenario possible, like even if it goes good, if it goes bad, or do you plan and then you just go through with that plan? Like no matter what, you just follow through with that plan?
Yeah, good question.
What is it?
That's a good question. Well, I hate to annoy you, but it's not either or, because that's a question of gut, right, or instinct. And instinct, people are like, what is instinct? Instinct is a mixture of knowledge and experience, right? Those are the 2 things that comprise instinct. What you know about the situation and what you've experienced before. When you add those 2 things together, you start to have a gut feeling about things. And so a leader is literally demonstrated, for another better term, by their instinct, right? So if you in the middle of lockdown have a plan and you're like, this is it, I'm going to stick through to it. As a co-leader, I would say kudos, right? You know, if you as a leader have a plan, but I'm going to loosely hold on to it because things could change, well, I would equally go kudos. Ultimately, what I would advise you to do is definitely aim at things, right? Absolutely. So you can be very fixed about where you're going, but you can be loose about the process. And I think in a lockdown, that's probably the best thing to do, to be very fixed about your destination. We are going to raise £10,000. However, how we're going to do it, I've got a couple of ways that I think might work, but there's a lot of different, variables I can't control for. And for that reason, you might have lots of different, things. So I'm saying have a plan, but ensure that plan's elastic, right? Be fixed about the destination perhaps, but be quite loose about the process. And if you do that, you'll see yourself achieving some of your goals.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. This one's for Michael. It's not much about leadership, but it's more about self-development, I should say. So, Michael, you said that you went overseas to France, yes?
Yeah. I mean,
well, you're in there now, yeah?
Yeah.
So I had a few opportunities to go abroad to play football and to train stuff like this, but I'm 21 now, but when I had the opportunities, I was like 18, 17, 19, around that age. And I was I was kind of hesitant. I want to know where you found the courage to just go.
It's a great question. It's interesting because it's mandatory as part of my course. Courage had nothing to do with it. You have to go, bro. So it wasn't really a choice for me, but I say this now to anyone who has actually opportunity to go, or if you can try to instigate an opportunity for your uni to let you, or when you finish uni, go out and live somewhere else that's different to where you call home, because whilst I've been here, it's been an opportunity for me to really get to know myself on a different level. When you go and have different lived experiences, when you go to somewhere that is not only far away from your people then, from your family, but it's also far away from your culture, you really start to understand, all right, cool, where am I willing to make a compromise and where am I not willing to make a compromise in regards to my character? And I think whilst I've been here, there's been opportunities for me to really be a Parisian black male, or really be a London black male in Paris. Do you know what I mean? So you really understand a lot more about yourself. You really have to, like I said, understand where your boundaries lie. So I think the courage had nothing to do with it, but if you want any words of advice or encouragement, go abroad, live somewhere different, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, 3, 4 years, get that lived experiences in a different place that you haven't been before, because it'll just make you a better person. It won't be to your disadvantage at all. If anything, it will help enlarge your scope, enlarge your ability to empathize with others, and thus make you a better leader, if you know what I mean. Because now I can actually relate to more people. I can actually put myself in more people's shoes, and thus be able to communicate myself in a lot better ways, or ways that they will be able to receive the information in a better way that probably I wouldn't have been able to do if I stayed in the UK. So yeah, definitely go and live your life. I'm going to Japan after this, I'll be honest. So yeah.
Well, you think you're going to Japan? We're in a global lockdown.
Pandemic.
You may be in France for a while. but
come back to the UK.
Au revoir to Kenneth. Folks, we're out of time. I just looked at the time and it's 8, and I thought, no. But you know what? This isn't the last session. So what we're going to do is every single question you've asked, please just put into a jar. Not an actual jar. That would be weird. Like you just heard the questions from the Youth School of Leadership. No, what I mean is hold on to them. If they're crucial, ask me directly. Ask, I'm sure Michael and Josiah and equally Deborah would be willing to. But please look, my socials are online. You can ask me those questions. I will happily answer them. They're right here. You can see the socials. Happily answer them. And you know me, like I answer stuff. But we're out of time. And I'm so sad. So I'm just waiting for the survey form to be posted. I think it's currently being looked for. It'll be posted very, very soon. And when it's posted, I'll invite up our sponsors to talk a bit about what's going to happen next as well, so you're aware of what's still happening. But some of the questions you've asked are so powerful. I mean, we've got here someone saying what specific books or resources or platforms have been pivotal to you. Kelvin asked an amazing question about leadership anxiety. I love that question. For moments when you're feeling pensive before you do something big. How do you lead when you feel unready? Someone said, what does reason trumps passion means, right? Someone said, as a creative, how do you deal with fear that comes with starting something from scratch? it's really difficult, some of these things. And it's one of the reasons why we're committing to this virtual community of young leaders. And so when we have the next session, which will probably be in about 2 months or so, I'm not sure, I don't want to give any dates yet because I get that wrong, but it's very, very soon. We want you to come back and to bring other people with you, because the idea is that this spreads and we build this community. And beyond these meetings, you're asking and you're emailing in questions, just because we're really keen that this year be the best year for you as it pertains to leadership. It's really, really important to us that this is the case. So how do we wrap up then? Well, we've said it quite clearly already. We've got in this season to do 2 things. One is definitely think internally. You cannot be a leader of people if you don't lead yourself. So just ask yourself, from those things we covered, you know, those 4 different ways you can lead yourself. Am I leading with compassion? Have I got a clear goal and a clear plan as to what I want from this year? What Kenneth asked, the clarifying question he asked was amazing. You know, how are you going to make sure you're fixed on the outcome, but loose about the process? That way you're agile, you're mobile, and you can move really quickly. The second thing is, once you have that internal sense of clarity, you then need to get your team to have the same clarity, because you can't just lead people by, you can't just do your own thing. You've got to bring people along with you. So that's the second thing you have to do. Ultimately, when you combine the internal with the external, you'll have a holistic way of looking at how in a pandemic you can lead super well. And so that's what I invite you to do. I'm going to invite George to post the feedback link. I'm going to give way to Jumoke to come up, and we're going to get and here's some thoughts about what's going to happen next. Do not leave yet, folks, because this is the important part. Because we want to keep the energy going. This wasn't just a vibe one evening. This is joining a community that's going to keep on going, more events, more discussion, so that you're more empowered moving forward. So over to you, George. And then can we have Nurturing Foundations up?
Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Another awesome session today. And I want to believe that you'll all agree with me. I really want to commend you all for staying till the very end. I mean, it's been an amazing session. I saw in the chat box earlier, you know, when you were asked how you felt about, you know, the session. I saw inspired, empowered, ready to do more, ready for more, you know, so many. And that's the whole idea of Youth School of Leadership. Like the first session, you know, we talked about different types of leaders, and today we're talking about leading yourself in the pandemic. So the different events are going to be having different ways of talking about leadership that's going to definitely help you on your journey. We're here to support you, to help you build valuable networks on your leadership journey, okay? Using the wisdom and experience of youth leaders, as you heard today. And that's why most of you were thinking, oh gosh, I could do this, you know, there's so much more to me. And you can relate with them due to the similarities in your age ranges and your reflections. So, you know, are the things, and we're really happy to be seeing this happening. Youth School of Leadership event will always be free. Always be free. So ensure that you follow and you engage with us so you can be there, you know, at every given time. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of resources that goes into every event. So make sure that you do your family and friends a favor by getting them to register for future events, honestly, and make the most use of the vast experience that, you know, you find on this platform here. I mean, the advantage of virtual meetings is that you can log on from any part of the world. I mean, we heard Luthando speaking from South Africa earlier. So do encourage people to come on. Let's learn together. Let's, you know, build leadership skills together, and let's ensure that we're doing the right thing. Again, we're Nurturing Foundations. My name is Jumoke, the founder. And our passion always is to ensure that you're the best that you can be. I'm going to send some things in the chat room now as well so that you can follow us. And then there'll be resources on the Youth School of Leadership website, which is the youthschoolofleadership.com website. And you can always find lots more things in there. We want to encourage you to network with yourselves and, you know, just build good relationships on your journey. Well done to the speakers again today. Mike, welcome. Well done for doing a great job. the other mic as well, Josiah and Deborah. Well done to you all. Well done. Thank you.
Right. So hang on in the chat, guys, for those links to be sent to you, so you know how to connect on social media. You can see already, like, that's the social media links. Do follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. This was great. I love it. I really love this stuff because, you know, you all have access to more people. And so you guys, you know, learning some of these things will mean hundreds, if not thousands of people through this call, like thousands of people's lives can be made better. Organizations can be more smooth, can be more efficient. So that's just crazy impact. And it's testament to the work that Nurture Foundations do, because that's amazing. That's amazing impact to think of thousands of people being reached through like a call like this. So thank you for all being a part of it too. Have those links been sent? I think, I don't know if they've been sent yet. I'm seeing them. Superb. Yeah, they're all there. So folks, I'm going to leave this call on for a bit so you have time to go click and share and all that kind of stuff. Let us know how you found it. Take a picture, put it on your Instagram stories, put it on Twitter, whatever it is. Let us know you are on here. And of course, all the session will be available on the Youth School of Leadership's YouTube channel, which you can find out if you go to youthschoolofleadership.com. You can actually rewatch this. I know it's crazy. You can rewatch this and get some of the content back. There'll be blog posts. You can download the the PowerPoint as well. So it's like Christmas, isn't it? Everything's just free and great. So honestly, make use of it. And yeah, thank you, everybody. I'm going to leave things for a few more minutes. So do connect with everybody whilst you're here. So I feel like I should play some music.
Me and hoping you see my snap, cause I'm not ready for us to ride, no.
Don't play games with my heart. Ooh, now the feels hit me differently. When the hidden is deep, don't play, yeah, yeah.